HBO's Rome is, without a doubt, a masterpiece. This epic television series brought the blood, politics, and sheer spectacle of ancient Rome to life like nothing before it. And its version of Julius Caesar's assassination is one of the most unforgettable scenes in television history. Brutal, shocking, and drenched in betrayal. It's an incredible drama. But what if I told you Rome's portrayal of this iconic assassination was riddled with inaccuracies? In its quest for the perfect television show, HBO didn't just dramatize history, it rewrote it. The location, the key players, the nature of the attack, and even the aftermath were all very different from what actually occurred. And the real story of the Ides of March was even more complex, chaotic, and ultimately more tragic than the fiction. Today, we're separating fact from television and exposing what HBO's Rome got wrong about one of the most famous murders in all of human history. First, the conspirators. In popular culture, from Shakespeare all the way to HBO, the assassination of Caesar is always framed around two men, Gaius Cassius Longinus, the bitter schemer, and Marcus Junius Brutus, the noble, tormented friend. Rome leans heavily into this tradition, focusing on Brutus's moral crisis and Cassius's ruthless ambition. And yes, they were central to the plot. But there's a massive hole in that version of events. It leaves out a man who was arguably more crucial to the conspiracy than either of them. Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus. Decimus is a name history has largely forgotten, thanks in no small part to Shakespeare, who deliberately merged him with the more famous Brutus for narrative simplicity. But in 44 BCE, Decimus wasn't an enemy of Caesar. He was one of Caesar's closest allies and most trusted generals. He had fought alongside Caesar in Gaul, earned his praise, and was so trusted that Caesar named him a secondary heir in his will, just after Octavian. They even had dinner together the night before Caesar's assassination. That's what makes his betrayal so gut-wrenching, and so vital to the success of the plot. On the morning of the Ides of March, Caesar was having second thoughts. His wife Calpurnia was plagued by nightmares, and ominous signs had him ready to cancel the Senate meeting. The conspiracy was about to collapse. So who did they send to convince him? Decimus. It was Decimus who appealed to Caesar's pride, mocked his fears, and personally escorted him to the Senate. His own retinue of gladiators was stationed nearby at the theatre of Pompey to provide cover for the conspirators. By omitting Decimus, HBO skips the most painful and intimate betrayal of them all. The plot wasn't just led by former enemies, it was enabled by a man Caesar treated like family. When you include Decimus, the story transforms from political rebellion into personal tragedy on the deepest level. The location. Most shows and movies, including Rome, depict Caesar's death in the grand Senate house of the Roman Forum, the Curia Hostilia. It's a powerful image, the tyrant cut down in the very heart of the Republic. But it's completely inaccurate. By 44 BCE, the old Curia had burned down during riots years earlier and was being rebuilt with funds from Caesar himself. In the meantime, the Senate met in various temporary venues. On the Ides of March, the session was held at the Curia of Pompey, a hall attached to Rome's first permanent stone theatre, built by Caesar's former rival, Pompey the Great. It wasn't just a meeting hall, it was a political and cultural landmark, complete with gardens, artwork, and galleries. Why does this matter? Because it adds a layer of historical irony the show completely misses. Caesar was assassinated at the foot of a statue of Pompey, his greatest enemy, whom he had defeated in civil war. Some ancient sources even say Caesar fell at the base of that statue, drenched in blood, as if Pompey himself had reached from beyond the grave for revenge. The symbolism was so potent that Caesar's heir, Octavian, had the site condemned and walled off forever. According to some reports, it was later repurposed as a public latrine. Today, the remains of the Curia of Pompey sit at Lago di Torre Argentina, an archaeological site in modern Rome that's now home to stray cats. By moving the assassination back into the traditional Senate floor, HBO lost one of the most poignant ironies in Roman history. The assassination. In HBO's Rome, Caesar's death is staged as a tight, deliberate act, an orchestrated ritual. The conspirators close in. The first stab lands. A few key plotters follow, and then Brutus delivers the final blow. But in reality, it was far uglier, and far more chaotic. Historical sources like Suetonius and Appian describe a panicked, frenzied attack by as many as 60 senators. Most of them weren't trained fighters. Many held daggers for the first time in their lives. Caesar was stabbed 23 times, but only one of those wounds was fatal. The others were superficial, suggesting a clumsy, desperate mob. In the confusion, some of the attackers even stabbed each other by mistake. This may have been the first historical autopsy, and it revealed just how chaotic the scene really was. As for Caesar's last words, ancient historians can't agree on what, if anything, Caesar said in his final moments. Shakespeare gave us the famous line, "Et tu, Brute?" But that's literary fiction. Historians like Suetonius claim Caesar muttered the Greek phrase kai su teknon, meaning you too, child, possibly aimed at Marcus Brutus. But other sources like Plutarch insist he said nothing at all. According to them, he simply saw Brutus, pulled his toga over his face, and accepted his fate in silence. HBO takes the latter approach, which is arguably more historically grounded. But by stylizing the scene with dramatic clarity, the show erases the sheer messiness of the real moment, the panic, the violence, the fear, not just of Caesar, but of the assassins themselves. The aftermath. In Rome, the conspirators look down on Caesar's dead body with grim resolve, convinced they've struck a necessary blow for the Republic. In real life, the aftermath was a total disaster. The liberators, as they called themselves, had no plan for what to do next. Brutus tried to address the rest of the Senate, hoping to rally support. Instead, the other senators fled in terror. The so-called liberators then paraded through the streets shouting, "People of Rome, we are once again free." But the people didn't cheer. They shut their doors. While the elite may have feared Caesar's power, the Roman masses loved him. He gave them land, grain, and glory. To the public, the assassins hadn't saved the Republic. They had murdered a hero. That miscalculation sealed their fate. Mark Antony quickly seized the moment and rallied support from an angry mob. And within days, Caesar's 18-year-old heir, Octavian, arrived in Rome and claimed his inheritance. The conspirators never stood a chance. Almost all of them died within a few years, some killed in battle, but many by suicide. And, in a final twist of irony, some even used the same daggers they'd plunged into Caesar to commit the act. So, does all this mean HBO's Rome was a bad television show? Absolutely not. It's a brilliant and landmark series that took historical dramas to a new level. But when it comes to the death of Julius Caesar, it chose narrative clarity over historical complexity. It focused on the wrong Brutus, staged the murder in the wrong building, cleaned up the messy reality of the attack, and skipped over the immediate, panicked chaos that followed. But what HBO's Rome did get right was the tragedy of the event. Caesar's assassination wasn't a noble plan that just went wrong. It was an intimate betrayal and a catastrophic political blunder. The conspirators believed that by killing one man, they could save the Republic. But instead, they ensured its demise. Their actions plunged Rome into another decade of civil war that finally destroyed the Republic they claimed to be saving, giving rise to the Age of Emperors. The real story of Julius Caesar's assassination is a stark reminder that history is often far messier, more ironic, and more tragic than any TV show can ever be. If you love uncovering the truth behind your favourite historical dramas, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell for more videos where we untangle history from Hollywood. Thanks for watching.